reporting. In the first session, we talked about financial reports, and we saw how to use the new features of 2006 intelligence. And in the second session, we dealt with non-financial reports. Today, we are going to be dealing with the distribution of these reports. So we'll do a bit of a review, but first of all, let me introduce myself. I am William Wingston, and I'll be your instructor today. We'll do a brief review of the intelligence reporting and show how the distribution process works in the report designer overview. Then we'll introduce the distribution, and we'll talk about the process as a whole. So by the end of this session, you will learn about how to set up the various distribution methods. We'll learn how to distribute by email, or we can use send it to a particular folder, or use F2P site. And we learn how to manage these distributions, create the instructions, and finally, how to actually put it into a report. So, what is Sage Intelligence Reporting? We have talked about this in the past 2 sessions. It's an easy-to-use Excel-based reporting solution, and of course, Sage standardized this product, the intelligence product, with the use of all of its accounting products, Sage 50, Mass 90, or Sage 500, Sage 50 in the US. They all use the Sage Intelligence reporting product. Okay. So why Sage Intelligence? Because good data makes for better decision making. Well, actually, not good data, timely information. And this is what the Sage 300 intelligence reporting would do, provide you with timely information. Okay, so the distribution portion of the solution helps you get these reports that you have created to the right people at the right time. Previously, I talked about the 5-step process in delivering reports. Step number 1, you would go through a needs analysis, discover the goals and whatever you need in creating that particular report. We found that by doing this step, it shortens the development period for the report. Then now that you know the needs, it's easy to plan the report specification and the report details. Then you will actually develop the report. You will create it. Step 4, which we'll talk about today, we'll talk about deploying the report to the stakeholders, or the people who are going to use these reports. And after this is done, when there's usually a starting of the cycle again, where people would then ask for various things in the report. For example, if you did a report and there was only numbers on it, somebody might say, well, could it be presented in a more visual way with charts, etc. So today, as I mentioned before, we're going to talk about deploying these reports. We looked at a sort of picture diagram of how the intelligence is designed, and we talked about the connector last week, especially in regard to non-financial reports. We said we can pull data from different databases. For example, you can create a report from Sage 300 and CRM and combine it. For example, I might look at a customer. Before I go on site to a customer, I might want to see what's in the pipeline. What are the sales opportunity, which will come from CRM. But at the same time, I might want to see, is this customer paying on time? So if I had to prioritize going to a particular customer, I might go to the customer who has jobs in the pipeline and is paying on a timely manner. That that customer might get my attention faster than somebody who has stuff in the pipeline, but is not paying as fast as they should be. So that's the example of a report that is pulling from 2 different databases. I am recovering from things, so my voice is going a little bit. Pardon me. Once we have the information from the connector, it flows into the report manager. From the report manager, we generate the Excel workbook. Then, if you are using a financial report, then we would use the report designer. For non-financial reports, we are able to modify Excel, use pivot tables, and save that back in the report manager. The distribution feature, which would apply to all of the reports, whether it's financial or non-financial. Excuse me. So the report distribution is a powerful tool that saves time and effort by allowing you to send reports to a file, FTP site, or email it in different formats. The information that you require before you can do this is you need to know what format you would like to send the reports in. For example, do you want to send it as a PDF file, or do you want to send it as an Excel file? How would you like this report to be distributed? Do you want to send it by email? Do you want to put it up on put it in a location, a particular file location, or do you want to put it on an FTP site? And once you have done that, whom do you want to view these reports? Do you want to send it to managers? And finally, we can set some criteria for these reports to be sent. For example, if the sales number is above a certain figure, it will go to somebody. Or if you do management by issues, if there's a problem, then a certain manager wants to be notified about, let's say, if the figure drop below, the sales figure drop below a certain number, or if the expense in some report increases above a certain amount, that person wants to be notified. So you can use criteria to send these reports. So the distribution process looks something like this. First, you would create distribution settings, which will determine whether you're going to use Outlook or, let's say, an SMTP server, Exchange server. Then you would create instructions. How do you want to go? If you're sending it by email, who is it going to go to, and probably send some message with it. Then we would select. Then we would apply these instructions to a particular report. And finally, we'll do a send now, which means that we will test our setup immediately. Plus, in addition to that, we can always schedule the report to run automatically. This feature of running automatically would allow us to run reports. Let's say some reports take a long time. As soon as they arrive in the office, I would like to get access to those reports. So it can be run very early in the morning while nobody is there. And as soon as you arrive in the office, you can access those reports. So let's get started. The above process, what it looks like in the actual report, when you click on the BI tools, it looks something like this. So you notice that I had described the process going from left to right. But in the report, for some reason, it's set up so that you go from right to left. I have no idea why that was done, but that's just the way it is. Okay, so first of all, we'll go and look at the distribution settings, we will see where we can talk, where we will set up, actually use the Outlook profile, which is the default. And if you are emailing stuff, then you have to remember that you have to leave your Outlook open, especially if you automate the process. If you don't have your Outlook open or don't want to have your Outlook open, then it might be advisable to use the SMTP Exchange server. So by default, your Microsoft Outlook profile settings will be used to automatically send reports, or if you want to use unattended distribution, you would use the SMTP Exchange server. The next step, we'll talk about managing instructions. Here you will be able to add instructions as to how and who you want that, and set up the criteria for your report. So after that is done, then we'll use the select instructions to apply these instructions sometimes to the report as a whole, or if the report has different, let's say, worksheets, you can select different worksheets to send to different people. Finally, this Send Now feature allows you to test the process immediately. If it works, then there'll be no error message. If it doesn't work, then you'll present with an error message, and you can click on that and send it right away. Or what we can do is automate the process after this. Okay. So now I will dive out into the actual product. So just let me minimize the screen. I have already opened Sage 300. I have already clicked on the report manager. And what I did was I created I copied a report, a standard report from the sales into a folder called training. Okay. Then I ran that report using using the criteria of January 1st, 2020 till June. So this is for a year. So if you would look at the top portion here, what I did, I click on the BI tools, and this is the distribution feature of the Sage Intelligence. So if I click on distribution settings, what I will see is the screen that you saw in my PowerPoint, and this here would determine whether you're going to use your Microsoft Outlook, which is the default, or if you don't have Outlook, or you don't want to, if you want to automate the process without having your Outlook open, then you might want to use your SMTP Exchange server if you have one. So you would need information. Well, you have information about your name, you'll know your email address, but you might want to find out what's your what is the SMTP server address. So you can type that in. Notice you use one or the other. So for example, if I have to fill this out, maybe I'll put William Wingston and my email address. And here I would need to enter my code, which this is not correct. I'm just telling you, I'm just giving you an example. Okay. And you would need a password to access. So this is information you can get from your IT department or IT person that would help you set this up. Today I'm just going to use the standard default. Okay. The next step, so once you've finished that step, this is a one-time setup process. You don't have to set this up again. Okay. The next step is we'll go to manage instructions. Now, inside here, I have already created one. To add one, all you would have to do is click on the add button, and you give it a name. So let's say sales managers or sales managers. Then what you're presented with is an option where you choose which method you want to send. So there's 3 different tabs up here. And what you can do is you can pick one tab, or you can pick all 3 methods if you wish, or 2 of the 3. So the combination that you desire, how you want your report to run, you would go inside here and make sure you select enable. Okay. Now, here in this area, if you have Outlook set up, I'm using a machine where I don't have Outlook set up. So if you have Outlook set up, if you click on the 2 button here, you'll bring up your Outlook email address. Or what you can do if you don't have Outlook, you can just type in the email address. So for example, William W. at okay. You can separate, if you have another email address, you can separate that with a semicolon. And let's say, okay. And of course, you can use the other features, copy or blind copy to, etc. Here you might want to put in a subject. Now, this is the part that gets a little bit interesting. So what we can do is send a message. So hi, and sales for the first okay. Now, here you would give the file a name. So let's call it. And this is where you determine the different formats. So you can send it. You can send your report as a PDF file. You can send it as Excel, the new version or the older version, or you can send it in this format here, the HTML format. So I'm going to leave it as this format. And what you can do is you can, there's this feature here that was added in Sage 300 2016, where you can convert the workbook to static values, or now, if you uncheck that, then you'll be able to send the Excel file with formulas. So if you wanted the other person to see the formulas, then you would uncheck this. Now, what you have to remember is some of the formulas might be formulas from the intelligence product. If they want to see those formulas, then they would have to have intelligence or license. But if they just want to see the Excel formulas by itself, then they don't need the intelligence license. Okay, so you don't need a viewer license or anything like this. Once you send it to somebody, it's just an Excel file. Okay, and you can distribute each worksheet separately if you wish also. Okay, so we'll leave it as static. Now, before I mentioned that it is possible to set some criteria or to add references from the report itself. So if in this situation I wanted to put a comment in, let's say, good work guys, our sales is, let's say, I have my sales figure from the report. So what I can do is I can click on this button up here, the cell reference, right? And this here would then, I would find the cell in the report. So if I click on it, let's say I scroll down to the bottom of this report. I have to move this down here. So select this cell and close off. So what is going to happen is, good work, our sales is, it looks kind of cryptic. In other words, who would understand that? So if you want to see what it's going to look like when it's sent, there's a little button down here called Preview Cell Reference. So if you click on this, you will see that now let me just make this a little bit bigger, full screen, so I get some more room. You can see here our sales is this figure here. Okay. Now we cannot modify anything while you're in this mode. So if you want to make any changes or continue to make changes, you've got to click on this again. So our sales figure is that, and our total cost of sales is, and again, I can use another cell reference, click on this, goes back out to this, I would select this is the total cost, close out to that. So we can see, we can customize the message that is sent, right, along with the report that goes with it. So that is pretty easy to do. But I also mentioned that we might want to, based on a certain criteria, send the report to a particular person. So how you would do that is you would okay, what we would do is we would go into our up here, right? We would then go back to our report, quickly create a, let's say inside here, I will create a field inside here using an if statement. So I'll put that anywhere for now. So let's say, I just want to, okay. So let's say if that's equal, if the tab, let's say if this figure here, if I scroll back, let's say a sales figure. Oh yes, let's say this. This cell is going to be, let's say, oh, I don't need to do that. I just want the cell figure, which is going to be, if I can make it out, it's going to be, let's say I-85. So I'm going to put that inside here. If I-85 is greater than, let's say, 150, let's say 15,000, then email. So I'm going to put in an email address. Let's say Paul at let's say Caron, and I put the close bracket sign here, and I'll quickly put another semicolon and then bracket tab. So, oops. So I have to check this formula here. Maybe I'll put a semicolon. Do I have it looking 85? Oh, see here, I made a mistake. I should put a greater than sign here. Okay, and then tab. Oops, backspace, tab. Okay, so the figure is greater than, so all I have to do now is I have to refer to this cell. So this cell is what is it, N11. So if I go back now into my report, here, if I right-click, insert cell reference, and I put N11, tab, close. Okay, and if I wanted to see that value inside here, when I click on this, oops, it should bring up that name. So it didn't work in this case because I probably, you see I can't make any changes while I have this. I have to uncheck this, go back here, and let me just do this last thing. It seems that my time is moving away from me. Okay, so again I highlight this. This is going to be N11. So I go back to my report screen here. I select this, put a semicolon inside here, and now I right-click on this field, insert cell reference, and I'm going to use this cell here, which is going to be, let's say, I can type it in manually, N11. So again, if I look at this, okay, I'm not sure why it's working right now, but that is the general process for getting the criteria to show if the sales figure is let's say above a certain level here, it should have presented this address for me. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll move on because time is of the essence, and I don't want to go too far over in terms of time. On the next screen here, if I move that back up, we can see we can add, we can publish it. Let's give it a name. We select a folder first of all, and let's say I browse and I can pick it on the desktop. I might have something called, let's say I create a new folder inside here and call it the intelligence report. And I hit OK. How about that? Okay, and then I give it a name. And then again, what method do you want to send by PDF file or however? And then you have the choices, the same choices as before here. Okay. So once that is set up, then you go to the next step, which is going to go back into, let's say, up here in the report. So you go back to the report. You go to the next step, which is instructions. And this report that I just created, I'm going to bring it over here. And for this report, I select it, and I will hit OK. And now the next step is I can do send now, which would then send the report. If I want to set it up so it's done automatically, then I will click on this button here, hit OK. Okay. Now, what I should do is, if I want to send a report, in this case, what I have to remember is that if you go back to this here, select this, let's say edit it. Right now, I should send it as static values. Okay. So then I could, if there were different worksheets, I can send it. Now, once you have done that, the next step is you would need to automate the process. What you would have to do is you would have to go inside here, you select a report, you say generate a scheduler command. You have to give it some criteria. So if I make this data, it's 2020, and let's say the same thing here, March 31st. Let's say choose, that's because this is sample data. I would select all the criteria. Okay, oops. Select all, and hit OK. Now we will get, this will be put into our clipboard. Okay. You would also make sure that there's an output file area. So you click on Advanced, you scroll down, so you will see an output file where it's located here. And you would say, okay, where do you want the data to go? And you will give it a file name. So let's call it test. Okay. I would rerun, if I wanted that location to be included in the file, I would rerun this report command again, so that this time it would include the location. 20. Select all, and I will hit OK. So again, this is generated. So this automation process is basically a three-step process. We have already done 2 of them. The first step would be to ensure that you have some location that it's going to. So how do you find that? 1, you select the report, go to the Properties tab, right down at the bottom you say Show Advanced. Then you would get access to this field now, and you would type in the location. Step number 2, you would then select the report, right-click, and generate the scheduler command, which we have done already, right? If you have parameters, you would have to set up the parameters to be included in the command. The next step, and the third and final step, is you would need to create a task in the Windows scheduler. So you would go to here, this is Windows 10, right? You would go to, let's say, All Apps. And there are different ways of access. There are different ways of getting to this file. But if you look under Administrative Tools, and you go to, let's say, the task, where is it now? Down the task scheduler here. And then you open that up. It will open up eventually. Oh, here it is. Right? And you would go through this process of setting this up. So here you would say, okay, action is going to be create a task. You give it a name. So let's say sales report. Okay. Then run if I'm logged in. Go to Action tab, and you go to New, Create New. And inside here, I would paste the report scheduler command that I created. Okay, if I hit OK or tab through that, okay, it will ask you, is this the command? And you say, yes, this is the command. Okay, so then you say, okay, I finished that step. The next step would be you might want to create a trigger for it. I might have to save this first. Okay. And then you would set up how often you want this report to run, and whatever you decide how you want this report to run. So this is a scheduler, a command from Windows. So you would select whatever you want to stub this stuff, whatever it is. So you could have choices here, and you would set this up. Okay. So you would go through that process and set up the scheduler, and then when the appropriate time has arrived, the report will run, and it will distribute to the area that you want, wherever you want that report to be located. Okay. So we have gone through the process of how to set up the distribution of your various reports. Okay. So I'll just go back to my PowerPoint just to go over what we have done. So it's the whole process is here. I'll just make this full screen. Okay. So we talked about the distribution settings. Here is where you would determine whether you're going to use Microsoft Outlook or the SMTP server. This is independent of the reports. The next step was managing instructions. When you clicked on this screen, you had choices whether you want to send a report by email, to a file location, or to an FTP site. Once you have done that, and we talked a little bit about in the Outlook or if you're emailing, how to reference a cell in the body of the message, how you can set up a criteria so that it will send to a particular person based on a criteria. Okay. And if you wanted to send a report as a static report, or have it sent with formulas available, accessible to the user. I did caution that if you wanted them to see the intelligence formulas, you would have to have the intelligence license. If they don't have the intelligence license, then the only formulas that they would see is the Excel formulas. The third step was now applying the instructions that you created to the report. Okay? If you do that and you wanted to save the instructions, one thing I forgot to mention was that you need to save the template of the file. So you go to, what you normally do is you go back to the report manager, right click, and save the Excel template. And then finally, we talked about sending or testing the process right away, which will be click on the Send Now button, or we went into a whole talk about, 10 minutes talk about how to set up the automated process, which I described as a 3-step process. Number 1, you would have an output location. Number 2, you would access the scheduler command, and number 3, you would go into the Windows scheduler and create a schedule. So that's a summary of the steps that we went through. So as you can gather, the automated distribution will help you to run reports during off-peak hours and send it to people who need them. So it's providing you with information that is accessible when you want it and to whom they should be sent to. Okay. So what I'll do now is I'll pause for if you have any questions. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and hopefully you send them in.
There's a question here. Can you reuse the distribution instructions for different reports?
Yes, you can reuse the instructions for different reports. But one thing you have to keep in mind is that the reports have a name. So you have to remember if you want to reuse them, maybe you need to change the name in the reports, okay, or have a generic name for different reports, okay.
There's another question. Will reports be overwritten if they are set to the same location?
Yes, because you are sending a report with the same name to, let's say, a file location, the report will be overwritten. If you don't want the report to be overwritten, what you can do is you can add a pass-through variable. You can add a pass-through variable in the path. For example, you can use @date@, which will then put a unique date for each report. So then the report will not get overwritten.
And one more question. If I'm using Outlook, will the report be automatically be emailed to the intended users of the report?
Yes. It will automatically be emailed, but if you're using Microsoft Outlook, then you have to remember you have to have Microsoft Outlook open at the time that the report is run. So if we schedule the report to run at 12 a.m. or 12 at night, then you have to remember to leave your Outlook open. If you don't want to do this, then you would need to use the SMTP server or Exchange server. Is there any other questions? The mic is open. It's open mic session. Okay. Okay. Now don't forget that we have organized, part of our ongoing sessions is that we have organized a hands-on lab, because the hour sometimes isn't enough. You get an overview, you can see what we do, but if you want an opportunity to come in and you are provided with laptops to do exactly what we did in this session, meaning that when I say we, I mean you get a chance to do it, and which is one of the best ways of learning, most people find. You can come in and sign up for this class. Keep in mind that it is limited, and in fact we have 4 people already signed up. We have space for 4 more. So the faster you put your name down, send it to Joan. That would be appreciated, and we'll get it organized for you. This will be next week at the same time in the morning. It will be only a 2-hour session. Okay, so I would like to thank you for attending. If we don't have any more questions, or if you do think of any more questions, you can either email me, or again, when you're emailing Joan, say, I have further questions to send to William. And keep in mind that this is a part of our ongoing series to help our clients, empower our clients in the use of the product. If you have any suggestions as to topics that you want done, please don't hesitate to let us know. We'll be more than willing to accommodate you. So if